It's Chris, it's Ethan, and it's episode 204 of the Grunge Bible Podcast. Ethan Shalloway, how's it going?
Chris, thank you very much. It's going well, man. It's going well. Thank you for everybody to joining us for another episode. And yeah, man, I am doing well. Just we're recording this on a Friday at the end of the week. It was a really solid week. Got some really good training in. You know, so being able to work a little bit here and there, as they say, and
Yes, they do say that.
as they say. So yeah, it's yeah, man, it's good. I'm going to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's gonna be sunny. It's gonna be warm.
Oh yeah,
Just for like 2 days and see an old friend. I'm coaching some javelin. We get to see an old teammate of ours, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pumped about that. And yeah, man, I'm doing well. I am excited. I'm always excited to record a little bit once we get in here and kind of talk and kind of ramble. Like, I know it's for the people, but there's some things that I just want to talk about, some ideas. There's just random shit that runs through my head that I'm like, I'm going to see if that plays on the podcast. So maybe we'll talk about it a little bit. And hopefully you guys find that enjoyable, because that's what this turns into a little bit, is just kind of talking about stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
But we don't talk too much about ads because we don't have any ad reads to do.
We do not have any ads.
There's a few podcasts that I find myself clicking the 15-second thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
it takes,
I do that too.
Like, it takes 20 minutes to get to the actual anything. And I'm like, like the Kelsey podcast, I love them, love Jason and Travis together, and they do well. But man, they have so many ads, and they just there's always ads. And I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I know we can get off.
The way to do it. I would absolutely whore myself out for some ad reads.
I know. I'm just waiting for the day. But Chris, how are you?
I'm good, dude. Similar thoughts to you. Finishing out a good week. I'm tired though today. Today's Friday, as you said. Got a little bit more work to do. Gonna go to the gym today, but everything's been pretty good. I got a little bit of a headache today, and I can't stop yawning for some reason. But I don't know. Yeah, things are good. I'm feeling all right, as the man has said.
Good, dude. Happy to hear it.
Yeah, dude.
Happy to hear it. So this week, just a little fun thing. I just got a notification. So I had, for the Javelin project, we sold shirts over the last couple of years, and I received the payment via Venmo,
Yeah.
And somebody accidentally sent me $100.
This has happened to me before. And
I was like, oh, that's weird. But then it was quickly it was at plus 100, minus 100, because you can go, they fixed it so you can go back and take the money. I'm like, oh, perfect. I didn't have to do anything. They resolved it. And it was like 2 or 3 days ago. And I just got a notification that my account is locked because I didn't have the money to pay it back or something. And now I have to pay $3, but I didn't have any money in my Venmo. I had to pay $3 to restore my account. And I'm like, why am I penalized? I was like, I thought you guys took care of this. How is the changing of money?
How is that your problem?
How is that there? How is there a transaction fee? Like, the money, if it did come into my account, then just send the money back. And, that's what they did. So I don't know where this $3 transaction fee, because there isn't a transaction fee normally.
Right.
Unless you're taking it to your bank and you want it immediately, but just sending money back, that's why people use Venmo. There is no fees to it. So I'm a little hot about that. I just got it right before I got the email right before I sat down. I was like, what the hell?
Tough.
I'm going to look at it when I'm in the terminal today. I'm going to have to investigate.
Absolutely. Sit down and
figure out what's
sink
going
your teeth
on
into it. I have heard that there's a phishing technique that people will use with Venmo. Like, they say, if somebody sends you Venmo, if somebody sends you something that you're not expecting, not to interact with it because of something like that, which is weird because you did that, and why, I don't understand why you're being penalized. Because that happened to me once. Somebody sent me it was $40 or $50 or something, having to do with something, I think, with landscaping, and they were deposit, and I commented, I was like, hey man, what is this for? And he's like, oh, you're not Chris so-and-so with such and such landscaping. And I was like, no, that's not me. And I just sent him the money back, which I guess I shouldn't have done, but it turned out being fine. This wasn't a scammer. And he was like, wow, he was like, that was really nice if you just send that back. He's like, I feel like most people would have kept it. But I don't know, man, dude, it's tricky out there.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if they do this to a bunch of people just to make $3. I don't know how they would make it.
Like $3 if you get a bunch of people to bite, I suppose. That's like if we had a bunch of
If you
people.
do 10 of them in an hour, you get $30
That's
an
what
hour.
I'm saying. Like if we had a bunch of people all of a sudden join the Patreon at $2, I mean, then we'd be cooking.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of that, that is our lowest tier, $2.
That is our lowest tier.
You could accidentally send a Venmo request to us every month for $2, $5, or $10 to support the Patreon.
That's true.
And we won't send it back because you willingly did it and willingly signed up. So that's what the best and the only way to support us really is to do that. Unless it's our birthday, then we'll put out our Venmo handle for some beer. But yeah, please, think about that. Think about join the league.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you join at the $2, we get a bunch of people, then that can move mountains, as they say. But if you join at the $10 level, you can single-handedly move that mountain, and you also earn the right and the ability to have me say your name every week with abundant thanks. So our list of $10 Patreon supporters right now is A Bit Dusty, Black Hole Sean, Doug Endy, D-Boat, Eddie Vedder Got Me Through My Second Divorce, Gocha John, Epona, Jade Mercado, Carlene Salona, Jamie Lynn, King Buzzo Stole My Hair, Millie, The Michael Dooley Project, Nikki Six, Russell, Seattle 4 Fanboy from New Jersey, What the Fuck Is Up Denny's, Sherry Matthews, and Abraham is the cutest basset hound ever. So thanks, gang. Really appreciate it. Ethan, I'm gonna follow up on something that we talked about. It was either last week or the week prior in either 201 or 202 or 203, whatever.
My mustache.
No, not your mustache, but let's get an update on that.
Sorry to steal it, but I was. That's one of the other things I want to talk about. I did say I was going to shave my mustache. I didn't do it when I said I was gonna. I trimmed it up, and I was like, it still looks good.
Yeah.
Then, like 2 nights ago, I was just like, you know what? I was like, fresh start. I kind of felt like doing it, and I did it. It felt weird. Always feels a little bit weird. I'm like, why did I do that? But everything that dies someday comes back, so I'm not too worried about it. Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, it'll return.
Yeah, you're still rocking yours, so we're good. We're still
I at least have to hold on to mine until you get yours back, because I think at all times there has to be at least one member of Grunge Bible to have a mustache. But the thing that I wanted to circle back to was we were discussing our podcast platform ratings and reviews.
Oh yeah,
very recently.
100 reviews. So
we were parked at 98 reviews on Apple Podcasts for a while, and much to my delight, we now have 102 reviews. So we had multiple people hear the call, and not only that, we did receive a comment, and it was from somebody. I don't know if this was a typo, but their username is FatDCUK. I don't know if it was supposed to be Fat Duck, Fat Fuck, or Fat District of Columbia, United Kingdom, or District of Columbia, University of Kentucky. But Fat DCUK writes in 5-star review. Title of the review says amazing, and the body, the meat and potatoes of this review said, quote, "This pod saved my life. Number 100 Apple Music rating."
That's amazing.
Like, I feel like we need to get a plaque of that. Let's just put it up.
That's exactly what we were looking for when we sent the call out. So thank you. That means you're listening right now. So Fat DCUK, you did it, dude. You made the airwaves in a big way.
You're a doer. Yeah, absolutely. And then in other news, we did receive some more Spotify reviews. We're up to 275 reviews total. We're still carrying that 4.9 rating. Spotify can't, they don't allow you to review the podcast as a whole. I think you can just comment on specific episodes. So that's one thing. And then I also want to circle back, or I guess bring it up for the first time here. I'm a little upset about something. Ethan, I don't know if you know this. I don't think I told you this yet, but somebody used the Grunge Bible email address to sign up for an account on Match.com.
Wow.
So we are getting peppered with emails that apparently...
I saw the Match.
Yeah, they're apparently supposed to be going to an individual named Vera, who apparently lives in San Francisco, because we're just getting absolutely bombarded with emails telling this individual Vera that, your perfect match is right around the corner, or, over the next 72 hours, your chances of making a match go up, or all of these things. And I tried to unsubscribe within the mail app, and I thought I did it successfully, but just to be sure, I went to Match.com and I was like, unsubscribe me from this mailing list, and it wouldn't work. So I don't know but like there's a couple things going on here. Number one, I'm upset that we're getting these, but number two, like Vera's missing out on the love of their life because they're not getting the emails.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I just don't understand the purpose of this.
Yeah, someone's playing a prank. They're just playing a prank on us. I can respect
and I feel like
that,
this is a safe space to talk about it because, like, if anywhere else, it would just beget more people playing pranks and signing us up for stuff.
I know what you guys are thinking out there. It would be funny to use our email, but please don't.
Please don't
send us unless like
we wouldn't do it to you.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, all we can do is plea that you guys don't do that because.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, poor Vera.
In the words of Jeffrey Lebowski, her life is in your hands.
And in other words, Chris, all is fair in love and war.
All is fair in love and war. Although I don't know how this helps either the love campaign or the war campaign, but maybe in time it will be revealed to us. This is love.
It's all is fair. If she can do this, it's up to her.
This. I don't know how this helps her, but maybe she's trying to get matches and is saying that she's Grunge Bible. That's possible. Yeah.
She's using the alias.
Yeah. It's hard to say, but anyways, that's my grievance to air this week. We are going to be discussing the grunge rock, air quotes around that, of course, Unplugged shows today. But before we do that, we do have This Day in Music to dispense with here. So this episode comes out on February 17th, so we will be discussing February 17th in music history, and I'm just going to kick things right off here. We are officially
the
streaking.
Only way to kick things off, dude.
We are absolutely streaking. I messed this up when I wrote it down, but it was actually 1960. So on this day in 1960, Elvis Presley, the king, earns his first gold record for an album. And this anointing with a gold record came mere weeks before he was discharged from his stint in the U.S. Army, helping out Uncle Sam on the on the war front there. And this gold certification was celebrating his self-titled studio album, which was his second one released, and it originally came out in October 1956. And that right there is the long game from October of 56 to February of 60. It took that long to get the gold certification, but I'll tell you, once Elvis got one of them, he didn't look back.
Well, he may have got discharged from the Army, but at least he was in the Memphis Police Department. And
he was an honorary member of the Memphis PD.
I believe he was a captain, so at least he still had that going for him.
Yeah, and that lasts forever. Like that,
if you're an honorary member,
there's no honorable discharge from that.
But there may be a dishonorable.
Yeah, it's like Marines have the saying that there are no such thing as a former Marine. There is no such thing as a former honorary member of the Memphis Police Department.
That's so good. So obviously with the Grunge Bible, we've built this page on inside jokes and lore, and this Elvis streak we have going is, I hope it lives in the great hall of Grunge Bible lore, because it's just so important that Elvis is being brought up all the time. I'm glad that we got off the whole Beatles thing and talking about them, because this is way more satisfying.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
All right. Moving up to 1969, Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash record some duets in Nashville with Girl from the North Country, eventually ending up on Dylan's Nashville Skyline album, for which Cash writes liner notes. So Bob Dylan and Johnny Cash together.
That's huge.
That's a pretty dynamic duo. That could be one of the more powerful, cross-genre, a little bit cross-genre.
I would say so, 100%. Yeah, and Cash was a big fan of Dylan's as he was coming up through the ranks, and that version, or that particular song, Girl from the North Country, Bob Dylan originally recorded solo. I think it was for Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, the one of him and his girlfriend at the time, in the winter coats walking down the New York City street. That was on that album, but then they did that one together. Nashville Skyline is a great album. Obviously, Johnny Cash is the fucking man, so that's a very important thing that we need to note here today. We had a couple of Bob Dylan things recently too. I think he's been
lingering. In the news.
Yeah, he's lingering around there. So that's the thing. We kind of This Day in Music in a way is kind of like a coffee shop. People pop in. You got your regulars. You got your people that only pop in for a little bit one time. Then you have Elvis, who's like, every single Monday he's getting the same thing.
Well, I think you have your rankings, right? Right? Elvis is at the top of our Billboard, right?
Yes.
He's the number one spot right now, and Bob Dylan's probably number 2. Elton, Hercules, John is maybe sitting at 3.
Yeah.
But people kind of move up and down. But right now, Elvis is at the top spot. He gets the most airplay.
He's got the corner booth.
For a little bit, Judge Judy made a run, and
Judith Steinman was in there for a little bit, absolutely.
And Ken Jennings or whatever.
Yeah, they may make their return. You never know.
I hope so. I mean, those are my favorite.
So it's fantastic. Let's move forward. We've got a duo of birthdays on February 17th, 1972. Both Billy Joe Armstrong, notably of Green Day, and Taylor Hawkins, the fantastic, dearly departed drummer. They were both born on this day in 1972.
Wow, that's awesome. So they would be, 53 years old today?
Yeah, 53. Yep.
Billy Joe, 53. It's pretty great.
Young at heart.
Oh, very. Yeah, very. Yeah, dude, I love. Yeah, sorry, I'm just thinking about Judge Judy and and Ken Jennings, like the streaks, any type of streak, and like that's what, we talked about their winning streaks. We just love a good streak. And that's why we can't shut up about 204 episodes and yada yada.
Yeah.
Okay. 1976, the Eagles released their greatest hits album from 1971 to 75, a collection of 10 songs from their first 4 albums. For a while, it's certified as a top-selling album in the U.S. I think you do too, greatest hits albums, Chris. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if you love them, but like as far as getting into a band, the older bands and stuff, I mean, to be recognized highly enough to have a greatest hits album is an honor, and I like it. Put it all in one place. They're sifting through the music for us. Great place to start when you're getting into a band. Then you can kind of go and get a little deeper in certain things, because it is a little daunting when someone's like, listen to this album, listen to this artist, and you listen to one and like it could be their debut where they really only have 2 or 3 songs, or you want to get back to the start and you really got to go through some stuff. So the band did the work for us. They made the hits and then they compiled them. So
yeah,
bravo.
I agree. I'm a big fan. The greatest hits albums definitely have their place. And if I look back into my, I guess, how do you say, classic rock education, most of it came from most of it came from greatest hits. And I just want to get a little bit deeper into this one particularly. I just want to read out the track list for this right here, because it's absolutely incredible. 1 through 10 in the order that they appeared on the album. You have Take It Easy, Witchy Woman, Lion Eyes, Already Gone, Desperado, One of These Nights, Tequila Sunrise, Take It to the Limit, Peaceful Easy Feeling, and Best of My Love. I mean, that's just like, that's a hit parade. Yeah. It's Murderer's Row.
That really is, man. Oh, that's awesome. That's exactly what you want. I mean, and I love that it's 10 songs. They didn't try to go like 18. It's just nice 10. Like kept it. It had to be top tier.
Well, the other thing too, greatest hits albums a lot of times have been used by bands or musicians or record labels to kind of push a very recent single or a very recent song that is absolutely not amongst the greatest hits, but they didn't do that here. That happens a lot of times. It's like featuring, all of this band's greatest hits plus the new single, which is, it's not good, but you just have to like attach it and have it ride the coattails a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. This last one here on February 17th of 1991, Ed Sheeran is born. And Ethan, I'm surprised that he's that young. He'll be 34. I figured that he was older.
Yeah, he's been in the limelight for a long time now.
I mean, he was young. He was.
He had to have been.
I'm just reading this. He began writing songs around age 11, and then his first release came in 2011. Yes, he was 20 when his first thing came out, I guess. I am not an Ed Sheeran guy.
So Ed Sheeran, he's one of those guys I always say Ed Sheeran, because I was never quite sure about how to pronounce his name. Yeah. But then I also it's pretty clear it's Ed Sheeran. But I always say Sharon, and I don't know if that's like just me spiting. It's how you say people's names wrong on purpose, like Alonso.
To disrespect them, exactly. We used to do that with our first head coach at
Alonso. Anytime we texted his name, we would use all lowercase letters. There's a javelin thrower. His name is Tom Petronov. Well, it's Petronov, and I always call him Petronov because he used drugs and he was not an honest athlete. He's just, he's not
little
good,
things
so
like that you use to fight
Petrov.
back.
Yeah, it's a little
Death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, dude. I'm just doing my part to be a little bit petty in the
It's
exchange.
like they did
and
in
I
the
have nothing
60s. We're
against Ed
taking it to the
Sheeran.
streets.
Yeah, I mean Ed Sheeran is a great artist. Like he's kind of grown. I actually like that he kind of disappeared a little bit, and I think he's just doing more writing for other artists, right?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Right? Yeah. I think he's gone more into a writing role where he's not like.
That's great because then we don't have to hear him.
I would love. I don't have to see him.
Yeah,
he is a redhead, so
I feel badly too because like I honestly like I think it's really impressive the way that he I guess had done his live concerts like with the looper pedal and everything and like making the song. But I don't know, like you do that for so many years and you know you release whatever the hell he does. It's like enough's enough.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely everybody has those artists and those bands that for some reason you're just like, yeah, I don't know, man. I think I got to be a hater for this one. And
yeah, you know, it's good to be a hater sometimes.
As my dad famously once said, you can't root for everybody.
You can't root for everybody. In some cases, not being able to root for everybody is a very easy path to actively rooting against somebody.
You can't like everything. Exactly.
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
This Day in Music.
That wraps up This Day in Music. A good one, a good fun one right there.
Yeah, I would agree. So now it's time to dispense with the Unplugged. So the genesis of this episode, I mean, all the time people are asking us about Unplugged and asking us to talk about it because it's a very popular thing. But in advance of Grunge Bible Live episode 200, we had an entire litany of questions and topics that we had prepared to discuss. And obviously, if you tuned in or if you went back and listened to it, we didn't discuss anything that we had notes on. We just bullshitted for 4 hours, and it was awesome. I'm looking forward to doing that again. But one of the topics that we had was I forget, my apologies, I don't know who submitted it, but one of the topics was to rank and discuss some of the Unplugged and maybe discuss like, you know, your favorites or, you know, the biggest omissions from the night. So for all intents and purposes, we'll be discussing Pearl Jam, Nirvana, STP, and Alice in Chains is Unplugged. Unplugged? Yeah, I think that's whatever. Nevertheless, so that's what we're going to be doing today. And it's been a while since we've been in the Unplugged zone. I think we've reviewed each of these individually in prior episodes, but it's nice to kind of put them all together and stack them up against one another.
Absolutely. It is, you know, a time where, you know, we brought it up and it's like, oh man, Unplugged again. But then after looking back and listening and watching, you realize that it's requested a ton. This is like this is the kind of the biggest performances in the genre that you're going to get, right? Like this is kind of this made the scene in a lot of ways. I mean, this is maybe the most notable, definitely for Nirvana, could be for Pearl Jam, could be for Alice in Chains. Like these are some of their best performances, like top 3 that you're going to see for, you know, they're acoustic, so they're different. They're totally different than live shows. And we'll probably get into a little bit of why we like each one and whatnot, or what makes them stand out. But I think that they would be top 3, if not 1 or 2 for each of these bands. And like going back and looking and watching and just feeling the moment, like I was like, oh yeah, we're not going too far with the Unplugged. Like this is really important to the genre. So let's just let's bring it all together, like talk about it all again. And that's fine because it's paramount to this time. It just is.
And the cool thing too is, and I know we were like this, but whenever you first get into this genre or any of these bands in particular, it's usually through the radio or through a friend and they tell you to listen to a song. So you look it up on a streaming service or whatever, you listen or you hear it on the radio. But the first area that you go into discovery mode with, you always end up at Unplugged. It's like you start getting into Pearl Jam. It's like, holy shit, MTV Unplugged. And it's the same story for Alice in Chains and for Nirvana and STP as well, I think. So it's just kind of, you know, it's a common thread in everybody's journey that this, you know, these shows and these performances are some of the earliest discoveries that you make with these bands. And I think they do a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to how quickly you become endeared to the music and to the people in the band, because it's different, you know, like, you can watch them, you know, you're watching the performances, you're seeing the way that they're, you know, the stage is constructed, you're seeing what props they have set up and what the setting's like, and, you know, the banter, and it just kind of, it humanizes it, it personalizes it, and it definitely leaves an imprint on, you know, on you as a fan.
Yeah, it really was an expression of these bands to the fullest. Each of them in their different points in their history of the band. Um, I think looking back, we have the first one that happened was Pearl Jam in 92, March 6, 1992. Stone Temple Pilots followed up in November 17th, 1993. Then the very next day, November 18th, 1993 was Nirvana. And then 3 years passed and we have AIC going in April 10th, 1996. So 92, 93, 93, 96. So different points for each band, as we'll get into. And when I was watching, I kind of went back and I had to watch them all back a little bit. And it was easy once you watch the first one. And I had the same thought for everyone. I started watching, I was like, I'm gonna make this my number one. Like, I started with Stone Temple Pilots and I was like, man, Scott is so raw. I was like, the band is on fire. Like the band is the highlight. He's in a rocking chair. I was like, everything is so, so good. And then I clicked over to Alice in Chains. I was like, oh my gosh, like here we go. Alice in Chains again, like absolutely incredible. Lane, like, the history and all the kind of like the, troubles that they had recording and getting it off, and just like, again, the rawness. And then, obviously Nirvana, we just recently did an episode on that. So
Yeah.
I knew the impact and how that made me feel, and like watching it, like, oh, you just kind of get sucked in and want to hear all the banter, all the stage presence. And I was like, oh, Pearl Jam, like, probably doesn't have a chance against the three. And then I clicked over there and I was like, oh, here we go again. The band is on fire. Like, Ed is young and like his voice is like so strong, and to a point that you're just like blown away, and they are jamming so hard. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is going to be really hard to rank these. And there is no loser here, right? This top four ranking, when we put it together, this is just our ranking, and it does change. I mean, but so I think that holistically we try to zoom out and be like, okay, maybe what had the most importance to each band's legacy, or however we wanted to view it. But I think the main thing is here that these are all incredible and could be number one. And I would not argue with you more than, I'm going to argue a little bit, because that's what you do on a podcast.
Exactly.
So that's what you do a little bit, but like
Kornheiser and Wilbon.
yeah, it's, you take this side, I take that side. So like, but man, these are some excellent performances.
So something I just learned, because when we were doing the notes for this, you had you wrote down all the dates, and I didn't know that that Nirvana's and Stone Temple Pilots' were recorded on back-to-back days. They were recorded back-to-back days at the same place at Sony Music Studios in New York. So imagine, like, on the 17th you had STP, and then on the 18th you had Nirvana, the same exact building, the same stage, which is unbelievable. I never even thought to investigate that, or even knew that was the case. I know Pearl Jam's was in I think it was at Kaufman Astoria Studios in Queens, New York. And then Alice in Chains' was at the Majestic Theater in Brooklyn, New York. But I had no idea that it was the same venue back-to-back nights. What a 2-day stretch, man. That's crazy.
And you kind of think, like, I mean, people would be at both of those shows. Like, I mean, if a couple of years go by, definitely the people that were working there.
Members
like,
of the production team, exactly.
Definitely remember the production teams, but also, like, just in general, like, if that's like your spot, or I bet you there are a lot of people that saw both of those shows back to back, because your time and place, and like, you're probably in on the scene, and and that's just.
Well, the crazy thing about that too is small venues, obviously. So maybe like 800, 1,000 people or something maybe saw it, maybe less. I don't even know. But the amount of people that probably now say that they were there is probably somewhere in the hundreds of thousands.
Oh my, stolen valor, trying to say you're at these shows.
It's like a big game in a team's history. They're like, I was there. Like, I was at that game. Like, every single city has like that.
Or you were at the game before, but you get the games mixed up and like, yeah, I saw that. Like, that was game 4. You don't remember it correctly, Dan.
Yeah, exactly, man. Hey, that comes with the territory, and that comes with time. I think after all these years, if you had a close run-in with one of these, I think you deserve to lie a little bit and say that you were there.
Hey, a little lie never hurt anybody, but not here on the Guns podcast.
Because we don't lie.
We were not there.
What number? What is this? The 5th week of the year? 6th week of the year? We're like 6 weeks sober from lying.
Yeah,
feels good.
I hope.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so it worked out that Chris and I, we have different number ones. Our 1 and 2 are flip flop, but our 3 and 4 were the same. So we're going to go reverse order. So we're going to start with number 4, the one that we say is not far behind, but we had to pick an order. So for the 4th Unplugged session, 4th best out of these 4, we chose Pearl Jam. And again, this is a tough one because it was the last one I watched. So I was like, I don't know, maybe I had the mindset going in and I was like, oh, Chris will probably move it up too. But I watched it and just comparing them to the others, like this was, say, the heaviest in the sense of like the loudest.
And the way the band played.
The way the band played, they jammed. And that's not a bad thing. That was really good. But I liked the rawness of the other 3 and there was still vocal highlights with Ed, obviously, but the band, I think the highlight was the band in a lot of ways. Same thing with, I'd say, Stone Temple Pilots, where Lane and Kurt kind of stole the show for the other one. But dude, the bands were incredible in all of them. So my initial reaction was I went with the more acoustic and raw side of it, and but man, this set list that PJ pulled off was really something incredible.
Yeah, it sounds like we were in a very similar sense because I think an element that I used when I was ranking them and kind of grading them on my own was like how different were they in terms of personnel or how different were the songs in terms of the way they were constructed and presented that night. And Pearl Jam's Unplugged, which is an element for me that makes it great, is that it was like a 1-to-1, like these are the songs and like we're just going to trade our electric instruments for acoustic instruments and go from there. And I think a highlight of it, which I mean, who's to say if, they had done it again or they had done it later, it would have been the same. But it's like, I mean, Dave Abruzzese is playing the drums as if like it's just a normal gig. I mean, he's loud, he's in your face. I mean, as was his trademark at the time. And as the legend goes, the band had their gear stolen in advance of it. So like they're all on a bunch of rented equipment and like they're just playing as if it was, a show from their European tour, which I think had preceded this Unplugged event here. And it's just, that's what makes it great though. It's like, any other setting, it's like, hey, we're just going to play normally just with unplugged instruments and our drummer is just wailing away back there. It could detract from it, but with Pearl Jam, it's great. And I think, an element of it that makes it great, but for me, an element of it that, kind of makes me lean towards some of the other ones here a little bit. But yeah, Ethan, as you said, the set list, at the time in Pearl Jam's life, they had only released 10 and, they had a couple of different outtakes and whatnot. And, State of Love and Trust, Rockin' in the Free World, the cover that they had, even to this day, frequently do. But what are some of the standouts for you from Pearl Jam's Unplugged set?
Yeah, I was listening and I was thinking about this and I was like, I Alive was really good. And there's some fatigue with that. So then I knew when I thought it was really good that it definitely was. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Alive was super good. And then I heard Jeremy was a little bit later in the set, I think. That was awesome. Like, really good jam. But then like Porch came on, they had this extended jam or seemingly extended and they just really get into it and Dave
he gets up on the stool.
He gets up on the stool and he's just going crazy and like, so those are kind of my Alive, Jeremy and Porch were just really, really good. And I think Porch, I think that jam like really did it. Yeah, Ed's going crazy while not singing, which I love when singers kind of like they move around, they do stuff. So you're like, it's like a soundtrack. What are they going to do next? Like, is that, and that's when Ed, climbs and does all his stuff. So I think Porch has to be my favorite out of those 3. Cause I also love that song, but Jeremy was really, really excellent. I mean, that's just a great, great song and they played well.
Yeah, I would agree. I think, I had kind of, when I was thinking about this, for some reason I ended up omitting Alive. Like I just like wasn't considering it, but you're totally right. It was the 3rd song in the set that they had played. And the coolest part about it is for Oceans and State of Love and Trust, which were the first 2, Eddie Vedder's got a ball cap on backwards, but as soon as Alive starts, he takes off the hat, rustles his hair a little bit and lets it fly. It's like,
it really got the show going.
Yeah. It's like, we're settling in here because I mean, Ocean's obviously a very, very delicate entry there. I think at the time, certainly their most unorthodox song relative to the rest of their sound. I think a fitting opener for an Unplugged show like that. And you get State of Love and Trust, which is a fan favorite. I've never been particularly super high on that song, but Alive is like when the party gets started for sure.
It is.
And for me, you got Alive, and then right after that, like, we're going to Black, which is, one of the most iconic performances I think that Pearl Jam's ever done. So that's always the favorite for me, hotly tailed by Porch, just because of, it's funny, Eddie Vedder had spent a couple of years by that point using Porch to dive off of the stage and climb the rafters and everything. And it's like, he was able to translate that like madmanery to like an unplugged setting where it's like, I can't climb at the top of this studio in Queens, but like, I'm going to get up on the stool and like rotate around a little bit and mess with that a little bit. I also think Even Flow's great. And then Rockin' in the Free World, which isn't on like the, they didn't include it as a part of the official release, certainly of the record when they did it, but it's a really, really great performance nonetheless. I think, Mike McCready shines a lot in this one as well, as does Jeff. They all do shit. I mean, it's just really, really good. But that moment during Alive when that opening riff's going, and I think as soon as Dave comes in, the hat comes off, and like it's time, and it's time to show everybody how Pearl Jam's ferocity could translate to a setting like that.
Yeah. Kind of picking the songs that were not included, and I found this for I think STP. Like I wanted a song that was not released yet. Yeah,
exactly. It's like I was consulting the dates and everything. I was like,
I know.
Okay,
I'm like
can I include this?
Yeah, and that's like an interesting dilemma because they basically are picking all their songs from 10, and that's probably why a lot of people love the performance too, because obviously 10, nothing good after 10, as right now. So this is like a perfect.
That's the only good.
This
good
is a perfect.
album,
this is the perfect touring zone for a lot of people, because that's all. And you got Dave Abruzzese if you're one of those people. So, I mean,
there are a lot of those people.
Mm-hmm. I think I'm one of those people, Chris. I love Cameron though. So I don't know, like, and everything was really intense. If it wasn't like, Porch intense, it was Black intense, like deep and like. So maybe if you were to mix up the, like what if? And I'm not even sure, when did Elderly Woman come out?
That would have been for Versus in '93. So I'm not even sure if they had concepts of it quite yet, because some of those songs date into the 10 touring era. Like Daughter was written around that time, so I'm not sure. But always great when they get a chance to like preview something. Like we'll talk about it in a little bit, like STP did with Big Empty for their set, because Core was out, but Purple wasn't yet. But they had it and they played it.
So maybe something that was like a little bit more honest to the acoustic setting.
Yeah, where he's like this is a tune
glorified
we're working
G.
on.
I don't know if these songs were in their heads, if they could have debuted them. And what was the other one? Maybe something like really slow, like the almost like In Hiding territory. Like I said, they didn't have those type of Eddie Vedder songs constructed at the time. So,
right.
But I would like to see something way more stripped down. At least one in the middle would have been cool, just to get a feel.
Yeah, my top omission from it, just with the time and place, and not even because I think it would have stolen the show, but just my curiosity for what it would have sounded like, would be Release. If they had included that. And it's like, I don't feel like the set is lacking in any way. Like, it's not missing that emotional moment that I think Release would have provided. But just like for curiosity's sake, with that being, my favorite Pearl Jam track of all time, it just would have been a cool thing to have. And just thinking back to when I was first discovering all of their music, like what it would have felt like to learn and to hear for the first time that like they played Release at Unplugged, like no way. But obviously that opportunity was not used at the time. But nonetheless.
Yeah, and so like I said, this was the first one that in '92, and obviously early in the band. So they got 10 songs. I believe they played 8 and then 2 closing. The STP set, they played 8 songs as well. And then for Nirvana and AIC, they extended it and played 14 and 13. So there was room for more songs, probably just early in the Unplugged days, early in the Pearl Jam era. If they're a little bit, obviously a few years down the road, they would have maybe got more songs. I don't know how they picked the number of songs, but they probably could have played more, no problem. And Release was obviously, that was at the top of my mind. I just wanted to zag a little bit, take the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. We love a good zag, and I'm sure in time during this episode we will zag. So that's our case for Pearl Jam Unplugged, and we're going to move up into the number 3 slot right now. And we have Stone Temple Pilots Unplugged. We both have that as the third best unplugged performance, as we said, from November of '93. And as you just said, you've got 8 songs. And one thing that stood out for me, and I think why I ranked this ahead of the Pearl Jam Unplugged performance, is that you get some variation here, and you get some iterations of songs and different things that they did with them that you wouldn't hear when they played live plugged in. And like my mind is immediately drawn to when you've got Wicked Garden, they do that really, really cool interlude that's almost like a lullaby in between the sets, which is really creative because Wicked Garden is such a hard and heavy song. And the fact that they were able to do that, and then additionally completely transforming Sex Type Thing towards the back end of the set. I think it was the last song that they had played. And I think, I don't know if they introduced it as this, but it's alternatively known as Swing Type Thing. They say that sometimes because it's kind of like almost like jazzy in a little way. And I just loved that, like, they took that opportunity to, like, hey, like, you know, we're playing Unplugged, like, we're going to do some things differently here. And if there's a band that had the versatility to do something like that, it was definitely STP. And it's cool because it comes at a point in time where Core is the only thing that's out. And, you know, they were getting killed, you know, and a lot of the different pundits and everything saying that they were Pearl Jam ripoffs and they were like one trick ponies and everything and like cock rock, all that stuff. But, you know, the fact they were able to come in here and do those versatile things and make it play as well as it did is an element that I think raises the set to an entirely different level.
Yeah, I think you nailed it with that observation. The way that they mix songs up and kind of played, I wrote down the same thing. I love the bum bum in the Wicked Garden, and it's just so good. And I mean, they use bongos, tambourine, like all the auxiliary instruments, and the Sex Type Thing that was up there for, like, should I make that my favorite song?
Yeah, dude, plush with the bongos. You're right.
Yeah, yep. And they had the bongos. It just had this feel to it. Like they really set the mood, and it was like. The mood was really important as we move on to the next two. Like that's what Unplugged is, you know, centered around, is the mood of it all. So yeah, STP, like they were on top of it with their you know, choreographing and setting it up, and Scott was in a great spot, man. He was killing it. Like he was healthy. Yeah, his, you know, the hair was on point. I love that style for him.
I mean,
you know, Weiland was in rare form.
The rocking chair.
Yeah, the rocking chair was just so good. And like you said, you know, Big Empty, absolute beautiful time to release the song.
This may have been the first time that they played it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I think you're right. And you know, they got the slide guitar in Big Empty. The only problem with Big Empty is I wish it was the big finish.
I know, dude. Me too.
Sex Type Thing is cool to finish it off because it's way different. But man,
right.
And maybe because it was a new song, I think that they were playing for the first time, so maybe they didn't want to end with a new one. They wanted to end with something people knew. But yeah, the Big Empty, big finish would have been great. Yeah,
that would have been sweet. And another cool tidbit, you know, point in time that only something like this could happen because it wasn't released yet. Towards the end of Big Empty, they hit the chorus twice, and then they have that kind of weird like interlude there before the final build. After they hit the penultimate iteration of the chorus, you know, things kind of slow down almost to the point of stopping, and everybody in the studio is clapping and cheering because I'm sure at the time they thought the song was over because they didn't know the way that it went. So just like an interesting tidbit there, because it's like, you know, there's only a specific period of time where that could happen that STP fans would not know what's coming next with a song. And
yeah,
you know, it's cool to be able to do that. They also threw in a David Bowie cover in there, which is fantastic. Cover of Andy Warhol.
We love David Bowie covers.
Oh yeah, he's well represented. He's got 2 out of the 4 unplugged. We're going to be talking about here. So as we move forward into our top 2, I think there's a clear line of demarcation for me between the STP and Pearl Jam sets versus the Nirvana and Alice in Chains sets, and it's of no fault of STP and Pearl Jam, but I think with Alice in Chains and Nirvana, something that raises my level of admiration for them is just how high the stakes were for those 2 sets, for the Nirvana and for the Chain sets. You know, with Nirvana, you have them being the biggest band in the world. In Utero's out. It's like, where's the band going to go? What are they going to do? MTV had been in pursuit of them to do Unplugged for, God knows how long. And then alternatively with Alice in Chains, it had been the first show that they'd done in like 3 years, and nobody knows where the band's at. Where's Lane at? What's the health of these guys at? Is this going to happen? Are they going to play again? So just like much higher stakes environment. Whereas like the time and place for Pearl Jam and for STP, it's like, my perspective of it is like, these bands are cool, and what a cool thing for them to do. But with Nirvana and Alice in Chains, it's like, and for Nirvana and Alice in Chains, it's like, holy shit, I can't believe this is actually happening.
Yeah, no, that's a great point with in looking back at history and knowing what we know and how it kind of like played out. You're right, the stakes were super high for both those bands for the exact reasons that you said. And they both delivered. One had a lot more problems, like the Alice, if you look at the written out set list of how many times they had to, try to do Sludge Factory and the different songs, like the outtakes, like it was a struggle to kind of get through it. But, that adds to the experience and like, that's the intimate side of these Unplugged shows that I think a lot of people really enjoy. And want to have an opportunity to experience, because rock stars and just celebrities, I mean, you think they got it all figured out and it's always like going great, and to be able to be in the room when stuff like this is happening is it's just a nice reminder that they are people, they have struggles, and they're putting themselves out there for us to enjoy. And like I said, 3-year hiatus, coming back. Jerry's sick. He's got the bad hot dog. Like, I mean, Lane is obviously sick, and the band brings everybody together, and they play some awesome songs when they have the opportunity.
Absolutely. So here's the point where the roads diverge, Ethan.
Yeah. So I went with, and we omitted the omissions for STP, so maybe we can circle back.
Oh yeah, you want to just bang those out right now?
Yeah. So I just want to say, because this is another time where like a lot of stuff was not out, and I would love to see Atlanta. That's one of my favorite songs, but it was obviously not out. And Noah brought up Cinnamon last time when he was on the pod a couple weeks ago, and that song, like I had forgotten about that one, and I was listening to it again, and man, it is such a great song. So it would be great. I think Big Empty was probably their best song on that one, but it would have been great to have like Atlanta or something.
Like if we could bend time and space and give them that song at the time. Yeah, my omission that I would have loved to hear, I picked Where the River Goes, and my rationale behind that is because that's another song that is a heavier, more in-your-face song, and the two pretty heavy songs that they did with Sex Type Thing and Wicked Garden, they were able to transform in a really unique way. And I'm sure that, if Where the River Goes had been included, I would have been excited to see what way, if any, that they would have chosen to transform it into something different so that it played exceptionally well for that setting. That would have been a cool thing to hear. Yeah.
So my number 2, I decided to put Alice in Chains as the number 2. This has a lot to do with, I would say, the smoothness, it's pretty smooth Nirvana. I mean, there's a lot of banter, but I think that's what makes it so good. We did a whole episode on it and explained, I mean, that they are so, it's like it's intimate, use that a lot, but they are so in your face and just real, and so is AIC, but they have a lot more mistakes. So I just thought it would be fair. And I mean, Nirvana, the way that that is the Unplugged, performance that people like. That is the show that goes back. Maybe it's just because they had less time, but it really stands out in their catalog of touring. And like I said, AIC, really awesome, really, really strong. But it just took a lot of time to record, and I think that there had to be a number 1, there had to be a number 2, I guess.
Exactly. So as you said, it's your number 2. Alice in Chains Unplugged is my number 1. Just by a thread, inching out Nirvana's Unplugged, but just kind of getting into the meat of AIC's Unplugged. One element that I love about it, I love that they tapped Scott Olson to come in and play guitar. I think that additional guitar just adds a lot of flavor to these performances. And, the band didn't particularly do anything out of the ordinary in terms of instrumentation or song structure. But I think adding that additional guitar via Scotty Olsen provides a lot more depth to it that just makes things sound super full. But, for me, this is really one of the last opportunities that anybody had to see Lane perform live, whether you were there, whether you were watching it. 96, by the time this was released, they had done that little bit of a tour opening for Kiss around that time in 96. And then after that, I mean, you really don't see much of Lane out in public anymore, much less performing out in public anymore. So just the weight that this one holds is kind of like that iteration of Alice in Chains' swan song holds a lot of significance for me. And I think, despite all of that, and despite Lane's condition at the time, the fact that they were able to still go out there and create something beautiful amidst all of the not so beautiful things that they were dealing with at the time, tensions within the band, Lane's health, Jerry being sick that day, all of the pressure, obviously, of it having been such a long time since they'd performed. And by that time, MTV Unplugged, it had its Paramount moments with Nirvana Unplugged, and all of these ones that are
right.
that had risen, to the occasion. So I just think it's a really incredible performance, and the set list is, two paths here for Nirvana and for Alice in Chains with how they constructed the set lists and for what they decided to play. And the one common ground that they both have is, with their respective frontmen. Lane obviously shares that title with Jerry, but all of their music pretty much by this point is in the rear view, and then it's already been released, and before these individuals passed away or stopped creating music with the band. But it's just really interesting, the open with Nutshell, and kind of going back to some stuff from Sap, some stuff from Dirt, some stuff from the self-titled. It's just it's a really holistic, in a way it's almost a greatest hits set on its own, which is just unbelievably impressive. And yeah, it's just a titanic set list, I think.
Yeah, I mean, they had the whereabouts to release this out as an album, and Nutshell opener, just unreal. The band comes in and Lane walks out and
just in time,
seemingly barely has enough time to grab the mic and start the vocals, and good point about like the composition and playing all the hits. Nirvana played a lot of covers, so I can see where, and if you're an Alice in Chains fan, like obviously, this is the coup de grace, and this is the first time they performed, I believe, Sludge Factory, Heaven Beside You, Over Now, and Killer Is Me, 4 songs that they have never played. Me. Yeah, and they'd never played before, and they chose it for their first show after 3 years to come back and play in the conditions they were. They played songs that they had never played before, and that's really special. That's like a unique gift that we had. And you can't forget when Jerry played Gloom, Despair, Angry on Me, Agony on Me, that is. His little like weird country.
That little weird like
interlude. Giving people time to, just get to the next song.
Do what they needed to do. I love the move that they did at the end where they play Over Now, which would have been a perfect closing song, and they're like, no, we're gonna play Killer Is Me, which is just Jerry taking center stage for that, with it being his song and him providing the vocals on it. In terms of omissions, like what I wish I could have heard at this set, they could have done some funky stuff with like A Man in the Box or something like that, or Them Bones somehow. But for me, I can't get my mind off of the fact that what it would have been like if they played Don't Follow from Jar of Flies. I mean, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think they ever played that live with Lane. And just to have had that, just to be able to listen to, like what it would have sounded like to hear that live out of the studio, is just one of the great what ifs, I think, just from a curiosity standpoint, because obviously like that iteration of the band, it's impossible for them to do that. And to this day, there's never been anything, as far as I'm aware, that's been released of any sort of live recording of that song with Lane. I just would have loved to see, at that time, how they would have chosen to attack that song and just what it would have sounded like.
Yeah, I think that any song on Jar of Flies that wasn't played would be highly requested.
Swing on This.
Yeah, Swing on This. Yeah, Whale and Wasp.
Whale and Wasp.
One's singing. But like,
Rotten
yeah,
Apple.
Don't Follow would be great. Rotten Apple. But I said I Stay Away would be.
Yeah,
would have been beautiful. I mean, really, really perfect.
That's a great pick.
Yeah, and like I said, any of these songs, but I Stay Away and Don't Follow would have been mind blowing. It would have been really, really fun to hear. And so I think that's the only song that I really would love to hear, because I do love that song. And yeah, honestly, that whole album front to back would have been perfect. It would have made a lot of sense if that's how history went down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's only so much time in the set list, you know.
I know, and they used it all for sure.
Yeah, the killer is him.
Yeah. So, but they like you said, it is definitely something that they came back and played for us, and it was really special. And kind of moving to my number one, Nirvana. I think that they took risks. They did it their own way, and they pulled it off to perfection. As close to perfection as you can ask when you're looking back. Like you said, when he walks off the stage, and it's like, I'm going to leave it right there. That's all we're going to do. And just, Kurt was himself. It was just exactly what you want from it. And the band was fun. Dave plays as light as he can, the only time he could ever do it. And
playing with the brushes.
Pat Smear was there. I mean,
yeah, Pat Smear. People forget Pat Smear was in Nirvana. And then they also included Laurie Goldstein with the cello there, echoing some of her work prior. And obviously, goes without saying, the Brothers Meat were also there for their vaunted appearance. And I think, like, you watch this one live and you listen to the banter and you watch Kurt, it's almost hard to believe how much consternation and internal pressure there was on the band for this show, because you don't see any of that when they play live. And in a similar fashion to how, with all of the struggles that Chains was going through at the time, like, you don't really glean a ton of that, when push comes to shove and they're getting into the song. And it's just one of, those moments where, like, a band is able to rise to an occasion, or an individual is able to rise to the occasion. And, we're recording this kind of sort of off the coattails of the episode that we did about Nirvana Unplugged, and talking about, the song choices that they made, and, Kurt's choice to invite the Meat Puppets to come play. And it's just like, an MTV producer's worst nightmare, because they want to hear the hits, but it's just quintessentially Kurt. And it's exactly what you would expect out of this band, to choose to play the songs that they did. And, to introduce a lot of people to stuff that they probably haven't heard before. Like, I know, like, I'd never heard Jesus Doesn't Want Me for a Sunbeam before. I'm not a huge David Bowie fan, so, like, the first time I ever heard Man Who Sold the World was the Nirvana cover. Meat Pup is the same thing. Like, I learned it because the age that I am, it's like I learned about Unplugged, and I was like, maybe I should check these Meat Puppets out and see what's going on. And then, like, as a blues fan, just the fact that, Kurt loves and adores Leadbelly and chooses to end it with a Leadbelly cover is just, like, an absolutely perfect decision. And as you said too, it's like, after that, it's like, do we want to go out for an encore? No, man, I'm going to leave it right there. Like, the best call you could have made.
Yeah, I think thinking about, if they made the right, or if they were under a lot of pressure, like, going out there, it's kind of like big athletes in big games. Like, everybody feels the pressure for them, but they just go out there and they're used to it and they know. And I feel like, you couldn't tell, because I really think that they went into this, like,
they're pros
with no pressure. Both them and Alice in Chains, like, they went in there and they were just, like, happy to be playing music and to be able to do something where they felt like they had control, and they were just playing, and, like, they were in a flow state. You know what I mean? They just, like, played. Yeah. And I think that's what makes it so authentic and beautiful every time. Is it's just like, yeah, this is real. Like, they're just playing.
Yeah, and certainly by that point with Nirvana, and by that point with Alice in Chains, like, they are well past the point, I would imagine, of feeling that they had to prove anything to anybody about their talents, or about their songwriting ability, or about their performance ability. And it's just, it's a gift where it's like this. I think the decision to play those shows for those two bands serves the fans more so than it ever did the bands. Like, they didn't have to do this. And the fact that they chose to, obviously, we're so much better for it. Do you have a top omission from the Nirvana Unplugged set that you wish you could have seen?
Yeah, I mean,
they left a lot of stuff unplayed, obviously, because they they brought the meat puppets out.
Yeah, and it may be, I don't know, it may be lame, but like, Smells Like Teen Spirit. You know, why not? Let's see what it sounds like. I think that it would just be really interesting, and it may not be worth it. Like if we, there's probably some other songs that would be really good, but I would have really enjoyed seeing that. Just stamp the performance with the best song that they have, and see how it turns out. It would have been fun.
It would have been fun if they played it. It would have even been more fun if they had teased it. They teased Sweet Home Alabama at one point in their set, and it just would have been absolutely hilarious and like quintessentially Nirvana to do something like that. My top omission, something that we chatted about when we did the episode on this show as a standalone, is just like what it would have been like if Mark Lanigan had taken up Kurt's offer to come and play, and if they would have done Where Did You Sleep Last Night, or if they would have done something else. I mean, that would have been hugely awesome to hear and experience. But one of those things, like for any of the omissions that we have, or any of the wish we could have scenes that we have about that set, or any of the previous three that we spoke about, like they're all perfect for their own reasons, and they're complete packages for their own reasons and in their own ways.
Yeah. Yeah, the biggest omission is not having a Soundgarden
I know,
Unplugged.
man.
So also
I'm trying to remember
everybody.
if I feel like at one point, like 2 or 3 years ago, we did an episode where like, we built our like, what if Soundgarden played Unplugged?
That sounds really familiar. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, because I think like we set the stage where like it's 1996, like they just released Down on the Upside. Like, what are they playing for Unplugged? I'm gonna have to track that episode down and see what my thoughts are. Or even more fun would be like if we like made our own lists right now and then went back and see what we said like 3 years ago when we did that.
Yeah. No, we definitely did. We do have an episode out there about that.
Yeah, it's out there somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the best song from Nirvana during that, it's hard to not say Where Did You Sleep Last Night. Incredible, lingering finish to the whole night. Lake of Fire, that is like, it's funny thinking about it, but like that song kind of got me into Nirvana. Like they're
really?
Unplugged. Yeah, I loved it. I was like blown away that it like wasn't their song.
Yeah.
I was like, what? I was like, what the heck? And but I thought, I just love, for some reason, that song like really does it for me, and it's so much fun for the weirdness of that it is, and it's just like, I don't know, it's a special song to me. So I love that performance. I think it's just a good one.
Yeah.
And I love the brothers meet. So
oh yeah, Oh Me, Plateau. I mean, you can't beat it.
Awesome. So yeah, those are our thoughts on Unplugged. Looking back, if we do another episode, maybe the list will change. But I thought that was a pretty well discussed analysis for each of those bands. And if you didn't have a reason to go back and listen and check it out, now you do. Now you can go and kind of look for certain things and kind of know the severity, or know just like the timeline of stuff of when it happened. Because yeah, it's easy to go back and watch some old video and not really think about the history, but I think that's what makes it the most fun, is to like, all right, why did, is this the first, I saw a video of the Killers and playing Mr. Brightside for like the first time, and like no one's cheering when the first riff comes on, where now like you played at any bar, any wedding, and like they hear one chord of the guitar, one pick, and everybody starts cheering.
Well, there's like
back in the day, you didn't know.
Yeah, have you seen? It's been all over the place on the internet lately, but that video of MGMT playing Kids from like 2003 at their college. Yeah. It's like stuff like that, man. Like ultimate time capsules. Yeah, dude, me too. It's fucking awesome.
Me up, dude. Kids, we played that as a band. I love that song. Like when I first heard it, it was so good.
It's timeless.
And you cannot beat the intensity of a band playing their hit song for the first time when they knew that it was gold. They knew that was great, compared to when you see it 10 years later and they just have to play it for the people. And like you said earlier, like when the Nirvana and the Alice in Chains was like for the people, and then like the other two was like for the band. Like it's fun to be at both of those, because you want to hear all the songs you want to hear later in their career. But like being there in the beginning when it's like when you feel like you're supporting the band. Like that's why you're there, is so they can play, they can let the emotions out of all their favorite songs that they've created so far, and then later they kind of throw it back to you, and it's like, all right, come on, like we're gonna play the songs that makes you nostalgic about us, all the good stuff that comes with music. So
absolutely, dude. So those are the Unplugged ranked.
That's it, man. Awesome. Well, that wraps up another episode of the Grunge Bible Podcast, episode 204, as they say. And it's good. It feels good. Like I said, that was a nice one, Chris.
Yeah, I think so. I think we were able to get back into the grunge zone for a little bit.
I've definitely, like I said, the louder than lift workout playlist is bringing me back into grunge and heavy rock and all of the goodness that comes from, just banging on the drums and playing heavy guitar riffs. So I'm in the zone right now.
Oh yeah, feels good to be in the zone, right?
Yeah, it does.
Nice, dude.
Do you have a song of the week that you want to send people off with?
Yeah, I have a quick little anecdote, because I think we discussed this on the pod last week about Louder Than Lift. It might have been on the pod, or it might have been just us talking, but you know how you said, you texted me and maybe we talked about it on the show, but how much you loved that All Them Witches song, Charles William. Mm-hmm. So I was at my gym on Wednesday for a big training day, and I walked in, and like all of us who were there, like our coach was like, hey, like he was passing the iPad around, and he's like, everybody can like cue one song, and like we'll just keep going and going and going until until we have like enough set up. So I queued up Charles William by All Them Witches, and like
That's
it came
awesome.
on. It came on, and like we did the thing where like nobody was acknowledging like who put the song on, and like we were trying to guess like who put it on, and people were like, Chris, like, did you like, what is this? Like, this is fucking awesome. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I'm that dude. Like I did it. Like I had like two people were like, what is this? Like I need to look this up and like add this to my list. So that's what it's all about, man. It's all about sharing stuff that's cool. And it's fun to be on the giving end of that.
Oh yeah, nothing better than that feeling of putting something on the aux and having people ask about it and be like, yeah, this is good.
Yeah.
So are you going to double it up? Are you putting that on the list as well?
No. So that actually happened twice. It happened with Charles William, but it also happened with, I put 1,000 Mods song on there. I put Road to Burn, which was great because it was very serendipitous. Like I had snatch waves up to 95% of my max on Wednesday, and I was crushing all of them. And for my last rep at 95%, a single, Road to Burn came on like right at the time, like the chorus kicked in right when I was like getting ready to lift, and I was like, this is perfect. And like I crushed it. It was a really good lift. And then same thing, like one of my buddies was like, did you put this on? I was like, yeah. He's like, what is this? He's like, I gotta check this out. I was like, go listen to it. I was like, the whole album sounds like this. So you're in for a treat. So Road to Burn by 1,000 Mods is going to be my song of the week.
That's awesome. That song has definitely moved up. 1,000 Mods in general has moved up big time for me in the in the ranks. I love it.
To this day, loudest show I've ever been to. Like I couldn't hear for 3 days afterwards.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always said every time you brought them up, I always thought they were another band, like 1,000 Gex or something.
Yeah. No, dude.
Which is like way different.
A bunch of Greek dudes just hammering stoner rock. Like what could you ask for? What more could you ask for?
So the song I'm gonna choose is off of it. It's kind of it's a cover, and it's a power group, but it is Almost Cut My Hair, the cover by Government Mule.
Yes,
Rob Baracco,
you sent this to me a couple weeks ago.
Dave Schools, and they got Robert Randolph on guitar. And it was a benefit concert, Volume 3, that Warren Haynes put on in 2010, I believe. And it is just a banger of a song, and the guitar, Robert Randolph just like crushed it. Just played. It was just such a good slide work and just guitar, and it really is such a great song. And like you said, I texted it to you, and you said never met a Government Mule cover I didn't like.
Yeah,
and
dude.
I was like, dude, that's exactly right. Those guys, like, there's so much history, and I remember you had seen them like probably like 2016 or 17.
Yeah, I've seen them a few times. Yeah, they're sick.
Yeah, and I'm like, I was like, I'm recently listening to him again. I'm like, man, I'm really jealous. I was like, I can't believe Chris has seen these guys.
Dude, did I ever tell you I saw
Haynes.
them? It was the second time that I'd seen them. And I tweeted at them before the show. I was like, hey, like I'm going to the show in Des Moines on Thursday night. I was like, you guys should definitely play your cover of Cortez the Killer by Neil Young. And they played it as their last song, and it was fucking awesome. Like they favorited my tweet. And then like I met Warren Haynes after the show. Like he was just he was standing up by his butt. It was super quick. Like I took a picture with him, and I was just like, hey man, like thanks for coming. Rock. Like great show. Yeah, just nice and quick.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that is awesome. I love those interactions. Like you just like you go up there and you're just like, all right, I don't want to be weird. That's the thing. I'm literally going to be as sincere as possible. Yeah. Be like, hey, like it's how I approach it all the time. We go up and be like, hey, like you guys really killed it tonight. Like bravo. Yeah. Like thank you so much. Like I'll talk to you.
And I'm sure they hear it all the time, but like I don't know. Like it just it felt necessary. Like if I had the opportunity to tell someone
great
like
Warren Haynes, dude.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah. that dude is a fucking legend. I legitimately think he's one of the best guitarists of the last 40 years.
Yes. Oh man, dude, he is.
Yeah, he's cool.
That's special.
Long live the mule. It's funny. The last thing that I'll say before we get out of here. When I played high school football, I was but a lad when it came to my musical journey and learning what I liked and discovering stuff. But I remember my assistant offensive line coach, he would always come to practice, and he had these shirts on for this band, and it just said like GOV''T mule, and I was like, what the fuck is government mule? And I was like, those two words that I would never expect to see together. And then like 2 years later, like I started getting into that type of stuff, and like it all made sense. And like I reached out to him. I'm like, man, like
you were right.
I can see why you were repping the mule at football practice.
It is a special epiphany when you see an old head wearing a band that they got into. They were at the tour, like an old shirt. And you find your way to the band, and you're like, I get it. I know why they're repping, and I know why they buy the merch, and like, and it is a like you understand that person so much more once you get into the band. Like,
it's cool. Yeah, it's cool too because it's like you recognize it through that one band, and then you immediately know that you have common ground with them on like 15 other bands.
It's like long hair. When you see someone with the long hair, you
know what that's about.
You know that they let their freak flag fly, and they probably know what's up with the government. They know where the drugs are at.
Drugs are. They know they're into a reasonable thought process, a reasonable life. Someone with short hair, you know what that meant. You knew what short hair meant.
Exactly.
I'm gonna have to post that one.
It's so freaking good. Wow. Oh man, that's what it's all about, dude. That's how, yeah. There it is, dude.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a good one. There it is, Warren Haynes, man, dude. Warren Haynes he's like 5'6", 5'7".
No shit.
Yeah, dude.
Unit.
Yeah, he is a unit. He's an absolute, complete and utter legend. So I'm glad that it makes me happy to know that that's something that you've been into lately.
Isn't his like, his grandson was, there it is, dude.
Me and Warren Haynes.
All right.
Oh, well,
I think that's it.
I think that is it. Ethan, this was a lovely episode. Everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll be back with you all next week. But until then, enjoy, have a good week. Support us a little bit. Leave a review. Maybe like we're at 102 on Apple Pods and 275 on Spotify. Maybe we'll have some higher numbers to report the next time we get together to record an episode. Think about joining the Patreon. $2, you're not going to miss it. $5, $10, you probably won't even miss that either. So we look forward to talking about how you've joined the Patreon the next time we record.
Amen. Thank you, everybody. We will see you back next week, same time, same place. Rock and roll, fellas.
Rock and roll.